Beneath Rome, the Colosseum's hidden hypogeum staged mock naval battles, while Trevi's waters still flow from Pisa's tilt to the cliffside Amalfi towns and Etna's smoke. Italy's landscapes connect in ways you'll never expect. But the Colosseum is not just an arena. It's a vertical city where corridors, trapdoors, and elevators once summoned beasts and stagecraft few modern stadia can match. Underneath its arena floor lay a labyrinth of chambers called the hypogeum, a two-level subterranean world of cages, pulley systems, and holding cells for gladiators and animals. This hidden underworld transformed theater into theater of unpredictability, where combatants, lions, and naval reenactments were orchestrated with brutal ingenuity. You can still trace the marks of ancient ropes and iron rings, evidence of mechanisms that hoisted cages into sudden daylight and changed the fate of the spectacle above. Stone surfaces bear inscriptions and graffiti left by emperors, freedmen, and ordinary Romans, an intimate register of voices across 2 millennia. Even the Colosseum's damage tells a story. Earthquakes and pillaging stripped marble and bronzes, which were recycled into palaces and basilicas across Rome. Yet despite that scavenging, its scale remains mind-bending, a testament to Roman engineering. Arches that distribute load, vaults that shaped open spaces. Standing beneath the arches, you sense how Romans turned simple geometry into social theater, routing crowds through vomitoria into fight lines calibrated for spectacle. The Colosseum also marks a shift from the private power of emperors to public performance, where political messages were staged in blood and bread. Crowds were both audience and audience maker, their reactions carefully managed with distributions, processions, and carefully timed games. Today, conservation reveals earlier colors, traces of stucco and vivid pigments, reminding us that this ruin was once dazzlingly alive. And the shadow of the Colosseum still shapes Rome's streets, feeding into piazzas and aligning with the ancient roads like the Via Sacra. Walking from the Colosseum toward the Forum, you move from spectacle to civic life, where law, commerce, and religion unfolded side by side. In that seamless cityscape, natural elements, like marble and travertine bridge Italy's geological story with its imperial ambitions. Only one country in Europe contains active volcanoes, alpine glaciers, and Mediterranean coral reefs within its borders, Italy. Do you know that Italy's Stromboli has been erupting almost continuously for over 2,000 years, a living lighthouse in the Tyrrhenian Sea? Nestled within that dramatic patchwork of landscapes lies the city-state of Vatican City, the world's smallest independent nation and the spiritual heart of Catholicism. Its presence inside Rome feels like an astonishing secret tucked into the folds of Italy's ancient capital. Step closer, and St. Peter's Basilica dominates the skyline, with a dome designed by Michelangelo that still commands engineers and artists alike. Beneath that monumental cupola rests what many believe to be the tomb of St. Peter, linking faith, history, and architecture in a single sacred space. The basilica's interior unveils like a crafted universe, colossal columns, mosaics that shimmer like fabrics, and chapels crowded with masterpieces by Bernini and others. One cannot miss Bernini's bronze baldachin, a twisting canopy that marks the main altar and frames centuries of papal ritual. Walk from the square into the basilica, and you encounter Michelangelo's Pietà, a sculpture carved when he was only in his 20s and still preserved behind glass. Nearby, the vast nave stretches toward the apse, where light filters through historic stained glass and gilded ornamentation. Outside, Gian Lorenzo Bernini's colonnade embraces St. Peter's Square, with two sweeping arms that symbolize the church's welcome to the world. The square itself becomes an amphitheater of devotion during papal liturgies, but even on quiet days, it is a masterclass in urban design. Vatican City's museums and the adjoining Sistine Chapel continue the conversation between art and belief, leading from classical statuary to Michelangelo's ceiling, where scenes from Genesis keep drawing viewers into their furious detail. Together, these spaces show how a microstate within Italy houses some of humanity's most powerful expressions of creativity and faith. As the sun sets over Rome's layered rooftops, the dome of St. Peter's glows like an emblem, reminding visitors that this tiny sovereign enclave links the natural grandeur of Italy with an unbroken thread of spiritual and artistic heritage. Beneath the gleaming slabs of Carrara marble that helped sculpt its facade, Pisa hides one of Europe's rarest architectural paradoxes, a bell tower that refused to stand straight. Do you know that the Leaning Tower of Pisa, begun in 1173, leaned before it was even finished and owes its famous tilt to shifting layers of clay and sand beneath its foundations? Builders paused construction for nearly a century, and that very delay is the reason the tower survived. Phases of work let the soil settle and prevented an early collapse. Inside, 294 narrow steps wind past 7 bells tuned to specific notes, creating a vertical orchestra that once marked both sacred hours and civic spectacle. Legend says Galileo dropped 2 spheres from the top to test gravity. While historians argue the story is likely myth, the image endures because Pisa was once at the cutting edge of scientific thinking. The tower sits in the Campo dei Miracoli, a green expanse anchored by the cathedral and the baptistery, a trio so harmonized that UNESCO protects them together. Walk from the tower across the lawn, and you can feel how the same Carrara marble veins and medieval ambition link Pisa to Florence, where Renaissance artisans refined the very stone and techniques used here. Engineers in the late 20th century managed a bold rescue by carefully removing earth from under the higher side and adding counterweights. They reduced the lean and ensured centuries more of standing. Climb to the top, and the horizon tilts. Roofs, cypresses, and the Arno's ribbon all seem to bend toward the same human-made miracle that taught the world about balance and error. Beneath the smiles of postcard tourists, however, are micro-stories. Medieval masons' marks hidden in the mortar, repairs from sea salt corrosion, and a city's stubborn refusal to call the tower a failure. From Pisa, the route threads east to Lucca's intact walls, and then to Florence's cathedrals, a corridor of marble, mortar, and ideas that maps Italy's leap from Roman stones to Renaissance stonework. Each step on the tower's spiral connects time, Romanesque ambition, Gothic precision, and modern science, and asks a quiet question: how do we steady what history tilted by accident? Visitors come for the photo, but they stay when they discover the more astonishing truth. Pisa's tilt turned a regional rivalry into a global emblem of human resilience. Even as restoration cleaned centuries of soot from the marble, small inscriptions and graffiti, signed by medieval pilgrims and modern lovers alike, tell intimate stories no guidebook captures. So when you look up at the tower, remember, it is not just a leaning stone. It is a lesson in patience, adaptation, and the strange way imperfection can define a place. And as you leave the Campo dei Miracoli, follow the line of marble and river toward Pisa's port or Florence's art-filled streets, where the same stubborn craftspeople kept building Italy's identity, one gilded masterpiece at a time. Val d'Orcia's rolling hills and perfectly aligned cypress avenues form one of the planet's most intact Renaissance cultural landscapes. Do you know, Val d'Orcia was deliberately reshaped in the 15th century, so its proportions and vistas would reflect humanistic ideals. Pienza, rebuilt as an ideal town by Pope Pius XVI, sits like a jewel above the valley and set a model for urban grace. Below it, the road unfurls into golden fields that lead toward Montalcino, where Brunello vines cling to terraces and ancient cellars, age wine into legend. A short detour brings you to Bagno Vignone, whose medieval piazza is a steaming thermal basin, a communal bath that anchors the village and its stories. Climb from there to Montepulciano, and you meet terraces and cellars producing Vino Nobile. A wine as bound to the land as the stone walls that hold it. Stone farmhouses, grazing sheep, and olive groves stitch the valley together, each practice shaping soil, sightlines, and seasonal color across generations. That living tapestry is why UNESCO inscribed Val d'Orcia. Towns, vineyards, and thermal pools combine into one continuous, human-made landscape. The light itself is part of the design, flattening then chiseling fields so painters and photographers have long come to study its grammar. Follow the cypress-lined lanes, and you trace the same routes pilgrims, merchants, and artists used, connecting Pienza to Montalcino, Bagno Vignone to Montepulciano. Local traditions: pecorino cheese aged in cool cellars, olive oil from twisted trees, vine training passed down through families, keep the valley alive and purposeful. Walk the ridge at sunset and the interplay of human care and wild weather becomes obvious. Val d'Orcia is a portrait of time, craft, and continuity today. Beneath a crown of jagged white peaks, the Apuan Alps in Tuscany are one of the few mountain ranges in the world, composed predominantly of pure Carrara marble, a geological treasure unique to Italy. Do you know the Apuan Alps hide underground caverns and veins of marble so pure that Michelangelo and his peers crossed seas to claim blocks for their masterpiece? Here, steep ridges split rivers and glaciers never formed, leaving an exposed, moon-like karst of tunnels, sinkholes, and polished faces carved by water and centuries of quarrying. Local quarrymen still use age-old techniques to coax flawless white from the mountain, producing slabs that built Rome and gave Florence its icons. Walk along a worked ledge, and you can trace the path of a single block, from its birthplace to the port of Carrara, and from there to cathedrals and piazzas across Europe. Hidden trails drop into ghost villages where abandoned machines rust beside chapel ruins, and every chisel scar tells a story of craft, greed, and survival. The Apuan Alps are also home to rare alpine species, from endemic orchids tucked into marble fissures to the nimble Apuan ringlet butterfly that survives nowhere else. Shepherds and conservationists clash here over grazing rights, illustrating how a delicate ecosystem balances human industry and fragile biodiversity. Snowmelt-fed streams carve deep gorges that funnel fresh water toward the Ligurian Sea, linking these high white peaks to sea-facing villages like Carrara and Cinque Terre. Yet just beyond those blinding slopes, chestnut forests and terraced olive groves remind you that civilization clings to the mountain's edge. This is a place where geology dictates culture. Quarries feed ateliers in Pietrasanta. Miners' songs echo in museum halls, and every monument has a traceable mountain origin. To understand Italy's art and architecture is to follow the veins of the Apuan Alps, from mountain face to museum plinth. In the next chapter, we'll descend into a quarry tunnel and uncover the human stories, the hidden machines, and the decisions that turned stone into legend. You will meet the people who still risk everything to cut the mountain, and learn why some believe the Apuan Alps are both heritage and a warning. We will trace a block's journey to Florence's Accademia, where David's marble still carries the fingerprints of these peaks. Prepare to see how a single mountain range reshaped Italy's skyline and seeded controversies that continue to divide towns and conservationists today. Inside, frescoes by Giorgio Vasari and Federico Zuccari cover the cupola in a dramatic Last Judgment that seems to swirl as you tilt your head upward. The vast interior, designed to hold thousands, still focuses the eye upward through rhythmic ribs and historic marble inlays. From the cathedral's terraces, you can see Giotto's campanile to one side and the baptistery, with its famed gates of paradise, to the other, linking three masterpieces in a single panorama. Those connections tell a story of competition and collaboration, artists and patrons vying to leave an indelible mark on Florence's civic heart. The cathedral also houses lesser-known treasures, like the clock by Paolo Uccello that runs counterclockwise, a relic of medieval timekeeping. Beneath the marble floor, archaeological excavations reveal foundations of earlier churches and Roman buildings, rooting the Duomo in layers of urban history. Climbing Brunelleschi's narrow stairs rewards you with tactile reminders, worn stone, hidden chimneys, and views through the dome's internal passages. At the summit, the city unfolds. Red-tiled roofs, the Arno threading through Florence, and the distant ridge of the Tuscan hills framing the scene. The Duomo's story is not just architecture, but a cultural engine that propelled Florence into Renaissance brilliance, influencing art and engineering across Europe. Its silhouette became a symbol, copied, studied, and debated by generations of builders who followed. Today, the cathedral continues to surprise visitors with small details, inscriptions, hidden doors, and devotional objects tucked into chapels that speak of personal faith and civic pride. Each discovery invites a deeper look into how one building could shape a city's identity for centuries. The Amalfi Coast's terraced lemon groves produce the Sfusato amalfitano, a lemon variety grown on near vertical cliffs and found almost nowhere else. Do you know the Amalfi Coast's medieval papermakers in Amalfi once made rag paper, so prized it circulated through Renaissance workshops across Europe? From Amalfi's ancient docks, the coastline unfurls into a sequence of towns stacked like postage stamps on sheer limestone walls. Turn the head, and Positano appears, a vertical village of cascade-colored houses dropping into pebble coves and private staircases that feel impossibly intimate. Follow the coastal road upward, and you reach Ravello, where gardens like Villa Ruffolo and Villa Simbrone perch above the sea with views that inspired Wagner. Between those heights and the sea, hidden gorges such as the Fiordo di Furore shelter tiny fishing hamlets and secret beaches few travelers find. Below the lemon terraces, old Amalfi paper mills and water-driven wheels once churned out the parchment of Europe, leaving mossy ruins in the Valle della Ferriere. That same river-carved microclimate supports rare ferns and waterfalls that feel more like a tropical enclave than a Mediterranean shoreline. Sail a short distance, and the Lee Galley Islands rise, a rocky archipelago wrapped in legend, where siren songs supposedly lured sailors. From there, Capri's blue grottos and Faraglione stacks connect the sea routes that coastal fishermen and Roman emperors alike used for centuries. The Sentiero degli Dei, the Path of the Gods, threads along ridgelines linking villages with views back over terraces, sea, and the dramatic curve of the coastline line. Walk it, and you can trace how olive groves, vineyards, and lemon orchards were carved into impossibly steep gradients by generations of hands. Local kitchens translate this landscape into flavor. salt-dried anchovies, hand-pressed olive oils, and limoncello, distilled from cliff-grown lemons. Every dish and sip tells of trade with Amalfi's maritime past and the cultural layers that turned a perilous shore into a prosperous mosaic. In small ports like Minori and Maiori, Roman ruins peek out beneath modern fishers' nets, linking imperial villas to present-day rhythms. And when evening falls, church bells, terrace lights, and the sea's hush stitch the towns together into a single living tapestry. This is a coastline where geology, agriculture, myth, and craft collide on ridges only meters wide, producing beauty that worked communities to their limits. Stay with us as we descend via steps and boats into alleys and caves to uncover the secret practices, recipes, and legends that have kept the Amalfi Coast thriving for a millennium. We will meet lemon farmers who rappel to prune citrus and listen to artisans who still fold paper by hand. Their stories reveal how a coastline that seems designed for tourists actually shelters deep, stubborn traditions that refuse to fade. These 5 pastel villages, Monterosso, Vernazza, Cornelia, Manarola, and Rio Maggiore, are threaded by narrow trails and an ancient network of dry stone walls that capture rain and silence erosion. Beneath the sea, underwater walls of rock create a mosaic of marine species so rich scientists call this stretch a living laboratory. Walking the Sentiero Azzurro, you step along paths carved by hands that moved earth for generations, each switchback revealing another painted facade or a sun-warmed cove. The colors aren't just for postcards. They helped fishermen identify their homes on foggy mornings, a practical code that became an icon. Storms, landslides, and the slow retreat of people have threatened these terraces, but a patchwork of community restoration projects and international conservation efforts have kept the cliffs alive. Locals still harvest lemon-scented olive oil and the tiny prized anchovies of Monterosso, foods shaped by scarcity and the sea. At sunset, the harbor of Vernazza folds like a pocket into the rock, and you can hear centuries of seaborne stories in the clink of a fisherman's net. Yet beneath that romantic surface lies engineering genius, centuries-old drainage channels, engineered landslide barriers, and vine training systems that defy gravity. Hike from village to village, and you'll meet artisans who coax wine from impossibly steep vines, tasting notes that carry salt, case, and the memory of stone. By night, with the tourists gone, The villages reveal a quieter rhythm. Kitchens lit by single lamps, elders swapping weathered maps, and children still learning the mule trails. Cinque Terre is both fragile and durable, a human-made wonder that asks for careful footsteps and respectful curiosity. In the next segment, we'll follow a restoration team as they rebuild a terrace, revealing the techniques that keep this cliffside civilization alive. Beneath Rome, an ancient spring called the Acqua Vergine feeds the Trevi fountain, making Italy one of the rare places where a living aqueduct still pours into an 18th century monument. Do you know the Aqua Virgo was first channeled in 19 BCC and still delivers mineral-rich water from the Roman countryside into the heart of the city? The fountain marks the meeting point of three roads, Trevi, anchoring layers of urban life and pilgrimage in a single piazza. Sculptor Nicola Salvi began shaping the Baroque drama in the 1730s, blending mythic figures and rugged stone to stage water as performance. At its center stands Oceanus, carved by Pietro Bracci, a towering presence that commands the cascading basins and carved grotto. Each curve and ledge was engineered to catch the spring's flow, transforming simple hydraulics into an enduring spectacle that still draws millions. Tossing a coin over your left shoulder has become a global ritual here, a small act of hope said to ensure a return to play. Collected nightly, those coins fund local charities, turning tourist superstition into a steady civic contribution for Rome's vulnerable. The fountain's silver screen immortality came with Fellini's La Dolce Vita, where that famous plunge fixed Trevi in the world's imagination. From this piazza, narrow alleys lead to the Pantheon's ancient rotunda and upward toward the Spanish Steps, each path a different chapter of the city. At dawn, the basin feels almost secret, cleaners and early risers greeting the hush as water reflects the blush of morning. By night, the carved figures glow against the disk, inviting confessions and quiet vows beneath the fountain's steady song. Guides still point out craftsmen's marks hidden in the stone, subtle signatures whispering the names of hands that shaped each ridge. And every coin thrown into that luminous water carries a private promise, a small, anonymous pact with deities kept alive by the sound of flowing water. Those same perspectives trace visual lines to the Colosseum's silhouette and the long sweep of the Circus Maximus, linking palace to public spectacle in one continuous panorama. Beneath your feet, ruins of palaces, frescoed rooms, and private shrines reveal Rome's domestic rituals and the astonishing scale of imperial living. Archaeologists keep unearthing hidden service corridors and vaulted cellars that explain how water, heat, and even private gardens were managed on this natural plateau. The Palatine's layered strata of habitation show how nature's tough terraces were adapted into terraces of marble, porticos, and shaded peristyles. Follow the ridge, and the hill naturally leads you toward the Roman Forum's shattered columns and then to the Palatine, making the journey feel like reading a city-sized manuscript. At sunrise, the light slices through the ruins, illuminating mosaics and revealing how sightlines were engineered to connect imperial houses with civic power. Even the vegetation tells stories. Pine, holm oak, and cultivated citrus mark ancient boundaries and guide visitors' steps from one monument to the next. Today, breezes that once cooled senators now carry whispers of archaeology and conservation, and the Palatine remains both a garden and a field laboratory. Its terraces fold into the surrounding urban tapestry, making it impossible to separate the hill from the living city, from the Forum's public life to the Tiber's quiet edge. Join us as we explore the hidden stairways, emperor's rooms, and surviving groves that make the Palatine Hill an epicenter where natural formation, imperial ambition, and Rome's public heart converged. By tracing its contours, we'll unspool connections to nearby sites. So the story of this single hill becomes the story of an ancient capital still alive beneath our feet. This is where geology met empire, and where every stone still points to another secret waiting just around the next ruined doorway. From the glacier-carved peaks of the Dolomites to the sun-baked terraces of the Amalfi coast, Italy threads together extremes of landscape and history. You can trace the same human story in the marble courtyards of Florence and the faded frescoes swallowed by Pompeii's ash. Along the northern lakes, silence breaks into operas of light on water, while in Sicily, the volcanic heartbeat of Etna reshapes lives and vineyards. The canals of Venice fold into alleyways that remember merchants and masked revelries, and Genoa's ladders climb toward horizons shaped by trade. Each town keeps a recipe, a dialect, a ritual that connects the past to the present in flavors, festivals, and stubbornly preserved craft. From shepherds on Sardinia's rugged coasts to fishermen casting nets off the Aeolian Isles, those traditions resist the speed of modern life. Yet Italy is not frozen in history. It's a living collage where Michelin-starred kitchens sit beside family trattorias and futuristic design rises from ancient stones. Walking its streets is to move through chapters that overlap. Roman columns supporting Renaissance palaces, Renaissance art framing contemporary conversations. If you've followed this journey from Alpine passes to southern shores, you've met landscapes that shape people, and people who shape landscapes in return. And when you leave, it's not just images you carry, but a sense of how geology, migration, and imagination have been folded together here over millennia. So come back to the maps you've memorized and redraw them with the smells, the names, and the small stubborn details that make Italy irreducibly itself. There are still hidden corners, recipes passed down by a single family, and cliffs that light up at sunrise waiting for you to discover them. More than a destination, Italy is a long conversation between place and people, inviting you to listen and to be part of the next line. Let this be the start of that conversation.